Welcome to The One Thing, where each episode features our signature segment, Pandora's Box. We dive into hot topics that challenge the norm and ignite real conversation.
Inspired by Greek mythology, Pandora's Box isn't just about chaos. It's about truth, transformation and hope. That's what we bring to every conversation.
Have a cause or business that deserves to be seen? Want to be remembered forevermore? Be our next special guest. Contact us today at theonething@edgeradioaustralia.com. Welcome everyone to The One Thing here at Edge Radio Australia. Very, very excited about today. I'm still not sure about that video. I'm really not. Leanne, I know that, you and Lisa put it together, but I'm highly questionable.
It's fun. It's just fun.
There's some 80s dancing involved. I'm not sure if I'm happy with that. Not cool at all.
And some weird faces as well.
Very much. Now, speaking of
weird faces.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say you and Lisa. We obviously have the lovely Lisa who's not with us today. She's not she hasn't passed away. When I say she's not with us, she's not in the building.
She's just not in the building today.
Absolutely.
And she's not able to stream in either.
Oh, jeez.
I know. It's a bit terrible, isn't it?
To talk about playing hooky, right? Oh, you're not too good indeed.
She's not even on holiday. I had an excuse.
That's an excuse. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm laying on a sun deck in Bali. What a tough gig. I know that Lisa was really looking forward to this.
She was very much
shindig that we have today because Barry, who you will go and introduce in a moment.
Yep.
Is a really fascinating guy. We've known each other for a while now, and he's got a bit of knowledge, and I'm really looking forward to today. So let's do the formals.
Awesome.
There we go.
So we would officially like to welcome Barry Green to our couch. I've got a big spiel here on Barry, and we've been talking for the last half an hour. A very, very interesting man. So Barry is a voice of wisdom, resilience and grassroots storytelling in Western Australia, with over 40 years of community radio experience and a passion for regenerative agriculture. Barry brings both depth and perception to every conversation. He is the founder of Western Tourist Radio, telling the stories of the people and places in WA on 87.6 FM. He's the custodian of the historic Lady Williams apple tree at Baronia Farm with his wife Dale. Advocate for sustainable, organic and regenerative agriculture. He's a believer in the magic of Slim Dusty. Hey? The original Aussie music tell you.
Check out the hat, right? Come on.
He's the creator of COVID Conversations, exploring mandates, media and the freedom of information. He's passionate about linking food, soil, tourism, mental health and Indigenous knowledge through meaningful dialogue. And today we are going to be talking about how we can reclaim our communities. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Barry Green. Welcome, Barry.
Thanks, Leanne.
Yes.
Absolute pleasure to have you here, mate. Really is. You are a guy who does link communities together. I think it's just who you are. I don't think there's any escaping from that. So,
yeah. So I guess I met you. It was Robin who introduced me to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember I was sitting. I don't know how I got talking to Robin.
Courage is Secure.
Yeah.
And she's talking about yourself, and I was sitting outside the public toilet in Donnybrook, the dummy do-over, which has got the very
a lot of people find out about me on public toilet walls. So
that's where I found your phone number.
So we were having this conversation, and I got in touch with you, and then I recorded a picture of you 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
and that's still playing on some of the tourist radio stations. So the tourist radio stations are 87.6 Bunbury, Buston, Dunsborough, Warrnambool and Augusta.
Yep.
They're low power transmitters. They don't go a long way, but they're about telling local stories. And I guess we're still trying to figure out the business model as you are. Between us and the Light Australia, we're trying to figure out the business model of the new media because the business model of the old media has failed.
Oh, ain't that the truth? And the great thing about we're moving forward, and I've certainly my knowledge and experience with the traditional media, it helps, but at the same time, and same with yourself, because you've got a background working for commercial TV as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we want to do it better.
Yep,
we want
absolutely.
to stop the conflicts of interest. We want to stop opinion being for sale, and we actually want to have people having real, genuine conversations again. So for me, that's and that's one thing I always love about chatting to you. You get down to the nitty gritty. People look at this big picture all the time. Well, I think the big picture gets drawn you start in the corner. Do you know what I mean? You've got
absolutely one little person at a time.
Yeah.
We were having that conversation earlier, Barry, and you were saying that the real stories come out one-to-one.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where we can build on from there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started at GWN. Well, look at GWN as it started out in 1967. Local Bunbury business people got together, created BTW, and then they took it down to Albany, became the GSW license. So there was 2 transmitters up at Mount Leonard, covered, and Mount Barker covered a large part of the state. That was local business, drove that. And then what happened, it went from being a locally owned company. Jack Bendat and Kerry Stokes acquired it together. And then when OSAT was introduced, there'd also been VEW Kalgoorlie, which is a bloke by the name of Herb Lilburn that set that up as a private operator. And there was a company in Geraldton running a TV station there. They all got aggregated, as they say. Same thing's happening in commercial radio. Aggregation is it happening in bigger farms. They talk aggregation. Some will seek as aggravation rather than aggregation.
Yeah, I was about to say, have you mispronounced this? Come on.
But, and then you look at the time I was at GWN from 88 to 2001, it was a large part of that was the only commercial broadcaster in regional Western Australia. West Australians identified with it. We had local program content, employed 180 or something West Australians. Then it got built by Prime, Eastern States slashing it, burnout, it got slashed and burnt. And this is what's happened to the media across Australia. The local media, radio, print and TV is being bought by corporations and shut down. And
that's how you get rid of your competition, isn't it?
That's right. We talk about private enterprise, but then the free market system works really well, but it only works when there's multiple players at all levels. And this is where it's failed. And, from an agricultural point of view, I grew up in Donnybrook in the 60s, so there's lots of small producers.
Yeah.
None of them were particularly rich, but, we all... And
you had some bloody good apples.
We had good apples. And
Donnybrook's known for good apples.
And they were fresh. And, they weren't travelled all around the world. Whereas now, you
don't even know where they come from.
You don't know where they come from. But there's lots of trucks taking stuff backwards and forwards up and down the highway. Houston, we have a problem, but we can talk about it. And so my interest in organic or regenerative agriculture, and the organic agriculture thing, the organic farmers, we were considered the loony left. Oh,
100%. I was talking to one of your loony lefts just last week, actually, up at Muresk.
Yep.
And, the gentleman I was talking to, and I'm sorry, his name escapes me right now.
Yeah. He decided he wasn't putting a crop in this year from Dalwallinu.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
because of the fact that, sorry, just to interrupt, but just on the 2 fronts, because it was financially not worth his while to, and obviously he also believes in regeneration of the soil and actually looking after the land.
And he didn't want to put in a genetically modified crop.
Yep.
That was the other thing.
So it's like the radio tech in me knows my training was to fix a problem. You've got to look at, identify, and then address the cause. Yeah. And what's happened in agriculture since the Second World War, all the research has been done by corporations selling stuff to farmers. So it used to be government would employ researchers to figure things out. But now we that's the business. So the business is all about selling stuff to farmers. Yep. And that's worked very well for the corporations. But this is what... and this the community radio thing comes into it. Back in 2018, when 𝐿𝐴𝐼 McTiernan and the Labor Agriculture Minister brought Charlie Massey to Western Australia. Charlie Massey is Regen Ag. Charlie was a 22-year-old uni student. He's probably about my age now, but he's a uni student, went back to the farm when his old man got sick and was very successful farmer growing wool, and and he wrote a great big book on the wool industry. In 2009, he went back to ANU, Australian National University, to do a PhD in human ecology, and he wrote this book about regenerative agriculture. And he was brought by 𝐿𝐴𝐼 McTiernan to Western Australia in 2018. And he spoke at an event in Fremantle called Healthy Soils, Healthy Communities.
Yep.
And around that time, we'd got Donnybrook Community Radio on air. I was one of the founders. We got it on air in 2016, 2018. We got transmitter on in the Hill, so we got out a lot further. But anyway, the CBAA, Community Broadcast Association of Australia, used to do a thing called national features and documentary series where they mentored community radio people to produce a half-hour documentary. So I nominated a pitch to do a program about regenerative agriculture based around an interview with Charles Massey,
right,
which was successful.
Okay.
And so I was mentored in that by Ian Hill, who was ABC. He's now
I know that name.
Very involved in Margaret River Radio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which has started off as a streaming radio and now is a proper radio station.
Oh, look at you at a proper radio. We've got both, so we're all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that wasn't meant to be a job. There's a place for all of these things.
Yeah.
But how do you keep community? Because this is where it comes back to, right?
It does.
And this is our question. And I'm really think that our viewers really want to know.
Yep.
How do you keep that community engaged? How do you get new viewers? How do you bring everyone in together? Is it, this community over here? Is it that community there? Is it this community here? Like, I see so many separate communities. How do we all come together as one? Because that's what I'm saying. Like, we were talking about that before as well, is we need to embrace, the Southwest community.
Yep.
We need to embrace the Worldwide Awake Business Networking community.
We do.
We need to embrace Edge Radio Australia networking community. And then the other one I was talking about as well was People's Health Alliance. All these communities that are in, how do we get them together through the voice of community radio? And how do we get listeners in to listen and stay committed to listening?
Yeah.
So that the word's heard, because otherwise it's lost.
Well, I think this is what we're going through at the moment, is this globalist is all about creating division. But I think that what I love about the internet is you've got a website, I've got a website. I promote what you're doing, you promote what I'm doing. That's how we get around the gatekeepers.
Spot on. And that is 100% right. This is the thing. And there's so many reasons people make excuses, right?
Yep.
So how about we stop making excuses? The reality is, I still share and promote your product, right? Because I believe in what you're doing.
Yep.
The same.
Likewise.
Same.
The same with all of these other groups, okay?
Yep.
And, you know what? It's not the greatest financial model in the world to be doing this sort of thing, to be sharing things for free. But if we actually truly want to build communities and we actually want to change the world, you do it by bringing people together.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's just such a big thing. And that's why, as I say, I'm very, very happy to share your material, the People's Health Alliance, so many groups, the community stations who are doing such the hard grafts. Let's get out there and support them all.
And this is where it comes back to when I was growing up as a kid, we grew up in a neighbourhood, a community.
Wow.
And now, and it's really sad. I mean, I really tried really hard to keep that community feeling for my boys.
Yep.
They're 30 and 28 now, but I don't see that as much in the younger generation. And I don't know my neighbours now, like my mum and dad knew their neighbours. And it didn't matter who, your community was. You listened to that person's parents because you're part of that community, or that neighbour because you're part of that community. There was none of this other stuff. So that's what I feel is lacking, that ability to grasp everything together. And I think through these sort of community groups, I think we can actually bring it back.
Yeah. I did a thing on my community radio show in Donnybrook today on the website, DBCR, Donnybrook Baileyamp communityradio.com.au. All the interviews I've done for the last 4 years are online. So, and some of those conversations would have been considered controversial at the time, but they're all online for the record.
Yeah.
And today I rebroadcast a segment from Hood's Club Grubbery where he had Chris Smith talking about the new, the fact that the government no longer recommends a COVID injection for under 18.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Just stuck in quietly,
but we can talk about it. Yeah. And so we do.
But hang on, we talk about it. You won't now.
No,
we're talking about the control of media. Let's be honest. In this state, in Western Australia, look, Kerry Stokes, 7 West Media own news in this state because they own so many of the local newspapers. What used to be the community newspapers is now Perth Now or whatever it's called.
Houston, we have a problem.
We do. Yep.
And
remember when we used to actually have legislation that stopped this from happening?
Yep.
Okay, you could only have a certain amount. You had to ask permission to buy it. Now it's a free for all, and the relationship between government, West Australian government specifically, and the media and particular business interests or housing developers or land developers big time. It is incestuous and disgusting and immoral, and as far as I'm concerned, utter corruption.
Yep.
Now, you're not going to, because of that, on Channel 7, Channel 9, or any of those sorts of things.
Does anybody watch them anymore?
I don't think they do.
There are too many people that watch them. That's the problem. We need them to watch
but
us.
that's changing.
I'm glad it's changing slowly.
I think it is, yeah.
But well, you know the stats on that at the moment?
No, I don't know.
Okay,
No,
so
I don't.
now, as of, well,
It's a presumption.
It is presumption.
Mine was a presumption.
No,
Yeah.
it's bang on.
Okay.
So just under 20%, it's depending which figure you look at, just under 20% of people now get their news, their daily news, from the mainstream media. That is a huge flip, right?
Yep.
So, because people don't believe them anymore. And why would they? Okay?
Absolutely.
We've seen nothing but blatant lies.
Trust.
They have no trust at all.
You know, I used to think I was a bit left of centre. I used to love the ABC. That's all I ever watched or listened. I no longer trust them. We've always valued volunteers, right? I've been in Lions and been a volunteer.
Yep.
And we're always talking about volunteers. I volunteered to be part of the control group in 𝐊𝐞𝐲 vaccine trial.
Okay.
And the ABC vilified me and people like me. Yeah. The ABC would never vilify a black fella or a gay person. Neither should they. But they shouldn't vilify
anybody.
Well, it's like, I mean, I've had my experiences with the ABC and as far as, being shut down.
This is you two.
We're not go that way. And the same thing with SBS. SBS, actually were going to fly me to the east to do a story and not going to carry on. And then they spoke to their legal department and discovered that it's just
you're a little bit controversial.
A bit of a hot potato. No, so not me specifically. The story.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So which is just ridiculous. But that's the control of the narrative that they have. And the great thing about what we're all doing here, and when I say we're all doing, I want to jump to the questions that are coming up on the screen here, because when I say what we're all doing, the people who are actually watching this right now, the people who are actually offering their opinions and their questions, this is community. Right? This is what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So let's
and this
jump
is
to
Lisa
that.
L, and she's from PHA. So I love that.
Lisa is awesome. So how's the digital ID going to affect community website access or just independent media in general? What do you thought?
This is a really interesting thing, because I've had this conversation with John Bissett, who's the CEO of the CBAA, the Community Broadcast Association of Australia. And he assures me that the so-called misinformation laws don't apply to community radio. The question I haven't had answered is what happens when we post the same content online. Now,
interesting.
So I don't know what the answer is. But the interview I did with John, he specifically said the function of the media in a democracy is to hold government to account.
Yep.
Now, that's what we're trying to do. As far as the digital ID, that does concern me. And I guess that's why community radio is so important.
Agreed.
But I just, this whole notion about the digital ID, the AI and all this technology, it's making these things so jolly insecure.
Unbelievably so.
It's mind-numbingly stupid to put all this data into one computer that somebody from a criminal cartel or a foreign corporation can hack. It's just a dumb idea.
Barry, there is a website you can go to here in Australia which will actually tell you how many breaches and what's been breached in the Australian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, Travis Carter put me onto it, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Carter.
Yes, he put me onto this. You can go in there, it'll tell you all the breaches. Yep. Now, how many do you reckon there'd be on there?
I wouldn't have a clue. A lot.
Like literally.
Yep.
By the time we hit about March, we're over 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we hear about the big ones, the health funds, all of that.
Optus wasn't Optus one as well, or something like that.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But there's so many of them. So why in the world would we put all of our eggs into one basket there? It's just insane.
It's a dumb idea.
The fact that half of the stuff doesn't work from any government, government thing anyway, doesn't help. Like my gov doesn't work. And then you need that because you have to, if you want to get, be a director of a company, you need to have this thing ticked and that box ticked, and it's just ridiculous.
No.
Just say no. Yeah.
Another comment here from Martin Shepherd. Now, there you go. ABC, surely they are completely above board and truthful. And geez, no sarcasm there whatsoever, Martin. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, they used to be.
Did they?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, anyway,
maybe landlines used to be, but I don't even think that's...
And the other one, which I really used to enjoy, was Australian story.
Oh,
They've had some fantastic stories there, and Peter Andrews was one.
Okay.
Peter Andrews, he was. I've met Peter Andrews. He was on the. He was it wasn't called Regen Ag then, but he had an alternate view on land care. And he was, rather than doing drainage to get rid of salt, he was blocking up his creeks and letting the weeds grow.
Right.
And he was a pariah within the land care movement. But he spoke on the ABC in Bunbury in the early 2000s on a rural report, and I went to an event that he had in Boyanup and listened to him speak. And he was explaining his idea of land care in terms of Aboriginal art, because he'd grown up with the Aboriginal people. So as soon as he said that, it got dismissed out of hand. But when he goes on to explain it, he talks about the Aboriginal arts based on the billabongs and the water, and how fresh water sits on top of salt water. And if you hold the water back, it keeps the fresh water up and keeps the salt water down. And he talks about freshwater lenses. This is science, and I'd come across it twice before, so it made click with me, because when we were in Roban, Wickham in the 80s, Cossack, the first settlement on the northwest coast, they started off with a shallow well, and then it was fresh water on top of the salt water. And then the PWD engineer came up in the way of government engineers.
PWD, what was that back in the day? What was that called?
This was in 1900 somewhere. And so they went deep, and they mixed the salt water with the fresh water, and that's why Cossack was abandoned. And then we spent 2 years on Cocos Island. We've just been there for the last week, actually.
Nice.
Plonk in the middle of the Indian Ocean, altitude 10 feet or something.
Right.
And again, they're drinking bore water, which was a freshwater lens on top of the salt water. So this is the fundamental science that the Aboriginal people knew without knowing, perhaps. But we've just got so much to learn from Aboriginal culture. They managed the Australian landscape for tens of thousands of years, and they didn't have massive bushfires or dust storms.
We just burn everything. We have quendas in our yards now. We've never had them.
So we've got a lot to learn from Aboriginal people, and we should be listening to them. But we don't have to change the constitution to do it.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
And we've just changed the national anthem to say that we are one and free. I'm not sure we're free anymore, but
no. So we need to change the whole thing.
Change the free
we
part.
do. Quick little comment here.
Question.
From someone from the Worldwide Awake Business Network. Thank you very much. Barry, where do you get your apples from? We talk about the big issues here. We do. So let's talk about them apples.
Are important.
They are.
Yeah, well, an apple a day keeps a doctor away. It's classic knowledge, isn't it?
I've heard stories about this. Maybe I should have some more apples.
Well, we've got our own orchard. But it's only small now, and when we bought the farm, we thought we were going to do more, but we've been so screwed by the Coles and Woolworths system. But I remain optimistic that the time of small farms is going to come back, because there's economies of scale of everything. In permaculture, they talk about this competing ideologies between economies of scale and stability through diversity.
Okay.
And that applies environmentally. It also applies economically. So a stable system will have lots of small producers. It should have lots of supermarkets.
Well, it's diversity there, right there, and you're protected that way. Okay, if one farm goes down or there's whatever
that's the free market. And
that's how it works, right?
It only works with multiple players at all levels. But the government...
multiple players, hang on, isn't that just... Coles, Woolworths and Wesfarmers? That's pretty much multiple. Hey, quick little break.
An oligarchy.
Yeah, very much so. Back in just a tick.
Is pain holding you back? Bowen Therapy with Panacea Healing can change that for you. It's never too late to recharge your health, career or purpose. You have the power within yourself to change what no longer serves you, taking your life and health to another level. panaceahealing.com.au. You can do anything.
And yes, you can do anything. That was me. Barry, I've got a question. I have 2 apple trees, beautiful apples all the time, a Granny Smith and a Pink Lady, because they cross-pollinate, right? Okay. But my Granny Smith died, and they're right next to each other. Why would one die and not the other?
Can't answer. I don't know. Maybe it's older.
I thought, no, they were both playing at the same time. That's why I'm asking. Well, how long does an apple tree live for?
Well, probably not, 30 years, maybe a bit more.
Oh, gosh, no, it was young.
It was young?
But you talk about the Pink Lady now. That's a really interesting story.
Oh, go on then.
we bought our farm from the Williams family.
Oh, yes.
Now, we've got the original Lady Williams apple tree with the chance seedling that came up in 1935.
Oh.
And it's not particularly well known anymore, but the Lady Williams is a parent of the Pink Lady.
Oh.
And the Pink Lady is a crossbred between the Lady Williams and the Golden Delicious.
Was my dad's favourite,
Which
Golden
is-
Delicious.
Which is a West Australian apple.
Yeah.
Come out of research that West Australian government did. It wasn't done by some
Wow.
foreign corporation.
Didn't know that.
And the Sundowner and the Bravo all trace their genetics back to their old Lady Williams apple tree. Now,
There you go.
There's a podcast was done a few years ago about the Lady Williams apple tree, and I got a phone call from a lady from the Victorian Catholic University. I think she was doing a study on women in agriculture, and she'd heard the interview that I'd done with Bob Williams,
Yep.
playing on tourist radio when we had the tourist radio in Perth, about the story of the Lady Williams. And out of that story, she contacted me, and they'd done this podcast about the Lady Williams story. This is storytelling, you see.
See?
Sharing I've got a great comment in there from Paul. Great to see you there, mate. We really need to look after our small producers, our farmers. Could not
Absolutely.
agree more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Like a lot of people in the city, maybe they'll lose sight of farming. And I mean, I've been lucky enough to live on property, so
Yep.
maybe I've got a little bit of crossover there. But okay, you know what? Guess what? Meat just doesn't come in a packet. Okay.
Oh, no, I know where
Apples-
mine comes from.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's we've got to understand that but lately I've actually been buying my good old fashioned mince from a different producer, from someone in the southwest, and the quality is just like tenfold, 10 times better. It's not packed with water and a little bit of fat to sort of balance it out and that sort of thing. So you've got to look after your locals. 100% agree with that.
So this is the whole sort of farmers markets movement, and what I've been trying to do with the Tourist Radio and Tourist Radio website, which is touristradio.com.au, I've tried to develop it as to WA tourism, what farmers markets are to food.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's the little businesses that I think are interesting. And, you know, I'd say, well, why travel the world eating something like Kansas fried cat that's guaranteed to be the same wherever you go on the face of the planet? From a tourism point of view, it's those local businesses that make the tourism experience interesting.
Of course they do.
Absolutely. That's what we need.
Brilliant comment there from Lisa as well. Lisa L, thank you again. How do urban peeps support our farmers and producers in regional areas? That's a great. You know what?
Yeah.
Get in the car, go down there, or up north, wherever you need to be, and do your thing, and stop and buy. You know, get that bag of mandarins. Get the.
But
the
do you know
apples, get
what?
the
We
goodies.
have a lot of farmers,
Bring them
growers,
up.
markets that we have one in Kalamunda.
There you go.
We have growers market, but we are lucky because we've got producers close to us. Although a lot of them are now shutting their doors as well because it's just not viable.
This is the great conundrum, and you know, and with the meat thing, you know, the Jeff Power, who's Southampton Homestead, he's got a little chicken abattoir.
Right.
He said there used to be something like 50 or 60 family abattoirs in the southwest, and they're all gone.
Yeah.
They've gone because government regulation
Yes, it's just
has made
rubbish.
it impossible. Now, the handful of abattoirs we got are owned by foreign corporations. So all the regulations the government makes are playing into the hands of the corporates.
Of course they are.
And, you know,
They're not by accident.
So who's
Not by
feeding the government, right?
Oh, look, okay.
But at the end of the
the
day, you know, these things go in cycles, and we've got to support local producers. And the economies of scale things has made it difficult. But at the end of the day, broke farmers don't feed anybody.
No.
That's right. And you know what? Yeah, well, that's the point. Farmers feed everybody, all right? We need farmers. It's that fundamentally.
Yep.
We don't need another Karen in HR.
No.
You know what we need? We need more farmers. We need people actually producing. We need people manufacturing. We need to actually make things again. Right?
Absolutely.
We have lost the sight as a country of doing it ourselves.
Yep.
That's the problem, right?
Yep.
And people just they want the easy way out.
Yeah.
They want to go to the supermarket because it's the easy way out.
Life's not supposed to be that
No,
easy.
it's
it
not.
Really isn't. And you get better produce, right? You feel better about yourself, all of that kind of thing. Just because it's not just it's not just a really nice apple, okay? Guess what? It's a country footy team, All right.
Absolutely.
It is the Country Women's Association.
Yep.
It's all the little businesses, all the little things that happen. And I mean, I remember this through my days with Rally Australia, because we'd go through all the little towns. And I had all my little spots. I know where to stop for my steak and mushroom pie.
Yep.
I know where to stop for my mandarins, all of that. I had my little plans, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. It was an amazing way of supporting the community. So maybe this is just a little thing for government. There is talk about Rally Australia coming back. It is so good for the country. It's so good for our Southwest. Just bring it back. That would be an important thing. Another question here. Now, that word, what is that word? And oligopoly, is a market structure.
Oligopoly.
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 Easy for you to say.
A monopoly's one, a duopoly's two.
Oligopoly. That's it, yeah.
All right.
Is a market structure, a small number of firms that dominate the market. These firms hold significant market power but must consider the actions of other competitors when making decisions.
That's the theory.
That's the theory. Yeah.
But from the agriculture point of view, what I think is exciting with Rob Kennedy in America, the stuff he's doing in the health space, he's appointed Joel Salter as an agricultural advisor. Joel is a regen ag farmer who was brought to Western Australia in 2010 or 12. I'm pretty sure it's by the Southwest Development Commission.
Wow.
And, people say, organic agriculture can't feed the world. It's going to have to, because the industrial agriculture is based on mining phosphate, mining potassium, and using fossil fuel to make nitrogen fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's happened, and it's not sustainable.
Of course not.
I was talking about the thing I did with Charlie Massey, the Healthy Soils, Healthy Communities. And in that piece, Charlie started talking about glyphosate or Roundup and how it crosses the blood-brain barrier and, is all these things. And I said, well, that's interesting. In the case of tobacco, people chose to consume that product, but we're all consuming glyphosate.
Whether we like it or not.
And Charlie said, well, that's interesting. So what happened? The tobacco industry perfected the playbook of not denying anything, just so that. So for years, blind Freddie could see that smoking was causing lung cancer, but they would say, there's no scientific proof. And so that's their playbook. The agricultural chemical industry operates from the same playbook. The pharmaceutical industry is operating from that playbook.
Yeah.
But I think St. Kennedy's going to sort them out.
I hope so.
And, people say that the pharmaceutical industry is so big it can't fail. But they said the Titanic was too big to fail, but it defied the laws of nature and sank. And so I think what's happening, human health doesn't come from chemistry. It comes from biology. And as a play on Bill Clinton's thing, it's about the economy stupid. My take on it, it's about the biology stupid. And regenerative agriculture is about the biology in the soil. The biology in the human guts is where our health comes from. There's growing evidence that the gut biology affecting mental health. So there's all these connections. These food-like materials that Michael Pollan talked about in the Omnivore's Dilemma, these food-like materials are not recognised by the human gut.
No, they're not.
So they've got these ultra-processed foods that are sold by the corporations. And as Kennedy said, that the Food and Drug Administration is basically corrupt. He said that they've allowed all sorts of food-like materials that aren't fit for human consumption. But a small farmer has all sorts of compliance stuff to deal with.
Oh, my gosh.
And, you grow an apple without chemicals. But the whole thing about regen ag, if you get the soil right.
Yeah. You don't need the chemicals.
If you get the soil right, the problems go away. Now, our soils are fairly deficient in minerals, so we do have to supplement minerals. But once you get the biology working, that sorts a lot of these things out. And a take I've used on it for a long time is that the wheel fell off of modern agriculture when Justus von Liebig discovered plants take up soluble nutrients. And there's no dispute that plants take up soluble nutrients. And if the nutrients simply aren't there, you've got to put them there. But plants have drinking roots and feeding roots. And in a natural organic soil, the plants get the nutrients they want that are soluble but attached to the colloids in the soil. So they get the nutrients they want. And if you've got a good fungus, the fungi go out and extend the range. And then they've got drinking roots that draw water when they need water. When you chuck on NPK fertiliser, the poor old plant goes to get a drink, gets all this NPK, and it's like someone eating Coke and Big Mac. You end up with an obese plant. And then in nature, pests and diseases are there to take out the weaker specimens.
Yeah.
And so this is what happens. And you turn to the same people who sold you the chemical fertilizer for a chemical solution. It's a great business model
it really
for people
is.
selling stuff. But what's really exciting is that the internet has allowed innovative farmers to work with independent scientists and get a better outcome with less inputs.
Well, before, the distance between farmers was the great fence. I mean, it was the barbed wire fence, wasn't it? Now, the internet, we've snipped that fence, and farmers can actually chat to each other. They can communicate. They can try different things in different areas and share their knowledge.
And they can work with scientists that aren't attached to the corporation. So people like Dr. Christine Jones, Dr. Martin Stafford, they've both been drummed out of CSIRO. But Christine Jones doing great work, and she was actually brought to by the Ag Department last year.
Okay.
She talks about multi-species pastures,
right?
And when you get multiple different species in your pastures, something happens in the symbiotic relationship between the plants that they complement each other. This is getting back to a sense of community and complementing each other. And she'd done work with a bull farmer in America. And this bloke grows bulls to do what bulls do.
Yeah.
And so he tests the semen quality, and they've been going down. But after he moved to multi-species pastures, the semen quality went back up again.
I reckon that's probably the same for us.
Absolutely.
The semen quality was going down.
But that's a fact. It's a fact.
Absolutely.
Because the foods we're eating.
We're eating monoculture foods.
Yeah.
Keep away from soy products, both men and women. Keep away from soy products. Just so the men know that I will always keep saying it. Soy milk and all kind of thing actually drops your testosterone and drops your sperm count. Fact, science, done, proven.
Yep.
And we all like to follow the science.
My husband's put a comment
I know,
up there.
and I
just want to read
grab
it.
that. So
what does he say?
What I'm going to do is we've
see
got so many comments we need to jump through, right? So
Yeah.
what we're going to do is there we go. Let's bring up Richard's comment. Okay.
Oh, we've even played with our food on the farm. Yeah, we have.
Oh, there you go. I'm sure he plays with his food a bit.
We've fed them.
Now, let's have a look. There are so many great comments coming through.
It all starts with the conversation.
It does. And look at these conversations. So
look
true.
at it. Look at them all.
Now,
it's great.
let me go back to, let me find.
That was him. What's he saying there?
He said something else here. Let's jump on this one. What's it got? There we go.
Okay.
So,
get that
thank
thing
you,
out of the way.
Richard. Oh, look, got to wait for that one.
Stop farming and the people have to bow down to the weevils and crickets. Yeah, no beef.
Yeah. On that front, have you noticed that the new regulations about the fact that they're going to be starting, Australia is leading the world in making fake meat? Isn't that exciting?
Oh, what?
This is the
look
craziness.
At our culture.
You know,
it's just
you look at the
well, we're short of land. We can't grow meat. You know?
The regenerative agriculture is based on using these big ruminant animals because they're an integral part of the soil building process. So the herds of bison in America and the plains of Africa, those soils were built by the action of big ruminant animals. They go over an area, they eat it, they piss and poop on it and move on.
Yep.
And it's that action that created the deep soils. Now, regenerative agriculture or organic agriculture is about building the soil organic matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's more organic?
Roots in the soil.
Yeah.
And natural soils, were at 4 or 5% organic matter. They've declined with the agriculture practice to less than 1%. If we're serious about getting carbon out of the atmosphere into the soil, regenerative agriculture is the best way to do it. If you increase your soil organic matter from 1%, for every percent increase, that's carbon in the soil instead of the atmosphere, but it also increased the soil water holding capacity. Increase at 1%, that's 140,000 litres per hectare of water.
That's a big change.
When you get your big floods, that's in part due to the fact that we've destroyed the organic matter in the soil. So rather than the water becoming a sponge and holding it, it nicks off down the creek and creates other problems.
We're getting so many questions through and comments through. I want to throw this one out to you because this is a little left of centre. Now, Barry, tell us what inspired you about the magic of Slim Dusty, the original Aussie musical storyteller.
Well, I guess, we were £10 poms, or Mum and Dad were £10. They got me for nothing. But
how much would you expect to make? There you go.
I love that.
But I just, so I grew up listening to his music. They talked of him as the original a bush philosopher.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of my philosophy comes from Slim Dusty, and it's that sense of community about working together. That's
community.
That's what created the Australia I grew up in. And what's happened since then, government's the problem. Government destroys community. They go in and say we're going to do something, and it destroys community.
And they say this is for the betterment of humans, betterment of the country, betterment of everything.
And then they
wash their
bring
hands
in
of
all
it.
the regulations. So when I grew up, Donnybrook, the Rotary started the Rotary Christmas Fair, which was it's a community thing. It was done as a fundraiser for community organisations. So that was 1965. I grew up, went away 74, came back 87. The fair was still going, a Rotary thing, but then and I was in Lions by then. We used to take the Lions food van, and then in whatever year it was, 93, Rotary numbers. Because what happened, Rotary members, their membership had been declining. It was mostly my mates' dads, and they were all getting older. And so any organisation needs to get young people involved. Anyway, so Rotary weren't going to do the fair, so a couple of Lions went, and we picked up the project. And I went to the council and I said, the Lions are going to do the Christmas fair. And the council said, oh, that's great. How can we help? And that's what used to happen. Now, if you try to do an event, you go to the council and you've got people tell you all these different things you've got to do. Now,
all safety.
Oh,
there's all this stuff.
Oh, everywhere.
We never did it before.
Well, H&S used to be called Common Sense. Okay,
There's no such thing as common sense.
No, it's not very common, that's for sure. Another comment here. So, what do you think, or what do we think actually? Can we reclaim our communities? Do you think?
Well, we've got to, and we can do it by just doing stuff, and we have the moral authority to do it. Then.
Action.
Okay, just bloody do it, mate.
Yeah, just do it.
And the other thing, I was having a chat today to someone, and we were talking about how in today's age, everything is so fast. But if you take yourself out of that fast lane and pop yourself down south in the country down, you will find the time won't go as fast because you're actually living life through your own experiences, not through the lens of someone else's.
I'm sorry, I disagree. Live life on the edge. Boom, boom. It's got to be done. But it's true.
Yeah.
And you think about when you go down south or up north, wherever. I mean, it's just because you've come from down south.
Take time out to actually be, and you will find that time is back to where it was when we're growing up.
Be present,
but it doesn't have to be just country. Community can be anywhere.
That's a great point.
Community can be anywhere.
And there's the old saying: it takes a village to raise a child.
Yep. Yeah.
As we were saying
we've got
before.
to get back to that, because as soon as you let the government do it, it all turns to crap.
Just as long as we don't get Hillary Clinton
Apparently
involved.
someone is a secret, but it's no secret no longer.
There we go. We have a butcher in Sawyers Valley who is a secret. Yeah, Ed, like you just said, no longer. That's good to know. Very, very, very good to know. I was in Sawyers Valley just about 10 days ago. So
we were on our way to Northam.
Yeah. That was very cool. Now, look at that.
And do you know what? You know how we were in Northam and we went towards Muresk? That's where my brother went.
To school?
To Ag College, Muresk.
Right.
It's where I drove a rally car for.
You're exciting, isn't it?
It was, very special to go back there.
Yeah.
Okay. So there we go.
And do you know that Barry and I know someone in common? We've never met each other before, and we worked that out today. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So see how community can actually come around.
And there's
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
We've got much more in common. And it was John Howard said we've got more in common than what divides us.
Yeah.
Although that seems to have been engineered the other way, but we can bring it back.
We can bring it back.
And by this, this.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Oh, look, this
conversation.
That's right. There's billions of people on Earth, right?
Absolutely.
There's billions of conversations. We keep having them. Guess what? We share the word, it grows, and genuine communities grow because of that.
We'll win this war one conversation
at a time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that statement there. Now, a great comment here from Lisa as well, Lisa L. There's a great product called Converse, which nourishes the soil. I believe it's produced down south of WA. Do you know anything about that one? It's not one I know.
I've used it.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Converse to me is a basketball boot. Yeah. So it shows what I know.
I'm trying to figure out how to start producing a community radio documentary, or not a community radio program that can be shared among other community stations about regen ag. That's one of the people I'm talking to that we.
Perfect.
Because we've got to figure out the business model of the new media, and these products, they need to get their story out, and if we can help them do it, then that's how it works.
Okay, well, let me just throw in a quick advertorial, right? The reality is we need people, the people who are watching this right now, we need your support, okay?
Absolutely.
This is bloody hard to do.
Yep.
And, I need people to be listening to your programming down south, the stuff through the tourist radio as well. For all of these people who are all dragging us together, we need to drag each other together.
Yep.
So we do need to get out there. It's like this. If you're watching this on Facebook, we'd love it if you like it. We'd love if you go to YouTube and like and subscribe and all of that. Why? Because it gives us the ability to keep sharing and keep growing.
Yep.
We actually need our audience. We don't buy any audience. We don't do any of the funny stuff.
No.
Everything we do is completely organic.
Yep.
And as
I love
it should
that.
be.
I love you see, you talk organic, and the term organic, it's had this notion, but when you think of it, the internet uses the term organic as basically something that is to the top of the search without being paid to get there.
Yes.
Whereas you look, the reason I persevered with the tourist radio business for 25 years without making any money, apart from the fact I'm a businessman, is that early in the piece I employed an SEO company, and I invited these people out. We were sitting around a barbie up at our dam, and Graham explained to me that Google had become the most successful search engine because they'd figured in any subject area, the more sites that link to a particular website will give that site authority, and it will come up in the rankings. And to me, I can still remember it was like light bulb moment. This is going to change the world because there's the opportunity for the best information to come to the top, not the information with the most money to spend on advertising, delivered through my old employer, commercial television.
Yep.
Now, it hasn't altogether worked out the way I'd hoped it would so far, but I still remain optimistic because Google's lost its way somewhat. But as we said, by sharing each other's content, that's how we get around the gatekeepers.
We do.
We do.
And I was on a Zoom meeting last night with a Hoodies men's group, and Michael Gray-Griffiths was there. And, he's been in hospital, and he's done all the fantastic work that he does.
He's had a tough run.
He's had a tough life. But he said so many people in the hospital system still didn't know about the stuff that we're doing. But now they do. And this is it. We've been through this period where you couldn't even talk about this. Now people are coming up to me and saying, I got the jab and I wish I hadn't. So I think we're approaching a tipping point. I think we're approaching a Berlin Wall moment. And then the change will happen. And I've been talking to a bloke who's in the political party, I won't say which one, and he's saying, well, the politicians can't really act until 20% of the population are ready to move. And so
get ready to move.
Get ready to move.
Get ready.
100%. Okay.
Rally.
We are so out of time. So what we're going to do is just quickly look at a couple of these comments, if I may. Another comment from Lisa L. You've been fantastic. You're always fantastic. So I love what you bring to the show. The strife in our communities reminds me of the story of the handshaking, the jar
full of different kinds of ants.
Different kinds of ants. There we go. How to rise above the shaking is the question.
Conversations.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go, I completely agree with you, but conversations, can we just minus the ego?
Absolutely.
Because that is a gatekeeper.
We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah. I know I'm a loud mouth. I know I'm probably very
very. But
annoy a lot of people.
You're all right.
I'm all right, yeah.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's all right. That's Jodie. I love her for that. Jodie from Topolini's. My brain is falling out because I know that we're running short of time. But look, again, well, there you go. I mean, there's another great family business that's incredibly important to support, that do the right thing by all of us, right? Yep. So let's have a look. If I've got any, I've probably missed some comments, and I do apologize.
Tune in next week. Well,
I've done that one. There we go. There's just so many here, which is great. And the thing too is, I can only see a few of them. This is just one feed. We don't get all the feeds through, all the individual ones. So
this has just gone absolutely bazonkers today.
Brilliant.
And I think this is sort of where we're going to have to leave it now. Yeah. It was a great session today. I absolutely love talking to you, Barry. The fact that we know someone in common, hi Nat, if you're listening, I did tell you to listen, is even better. I think exactly where you're coming from is one conversation at a time, even if it takes a little bit longer, one conversation at a time, that has a ripple effect, right?
It does.
And we would love to see you next week on the one thing as well. Aaron, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then you can wrap it up.
Okay, well, I'll wrap it with a nice bow on it. the fact is, Barry, really, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in here. It's a pleasure to know you, mate, and I respect you immensely for what you do. So don't stop, don't change, keep your foot on the throttle, mate.
And what's that Western Tourist Radio number again? 80.
Oh, well, they're low power licenses. They don't go terribly far. Bunbury, Bustle and Dunsborough and Augusta, 87.6 FM. A lot of the other 87.6 are Christian broadcasters. Yep. You'll be able to tell the difference. But our programs are repeating loop, but the same program content's online and the Radio WA podcast. You know, I'm a radio tech and an organic farmer. I haven't done a real good job of marketing, but I believe if you get the ideas right, the money will eventually look after itself. I haven't been proven right yet, but I still believe we'll get there in the end.
I have faith in you. I do. And just a little side note, if you happen to just find that frequency on your dial here in Perth, very soon we've got something very special for you. Absolutely. Here at Edge Radio Australia.
I'd love to talk to you about that another time.
Oh, mate, you're welcome any day. Simple as that. So let's get out of here. Thanks for being part of the One Thing here at Edge Radio Australia.
Ever felt lost online finding the right businesses?
Absolutely, like a needle in a haystack.
Introducing the Worldwide Awake Business Directory.
Tell me more.
It's your hub for businesses sharing your values. Discover eco-friendly products, socially responsible services, and more.
Count me in. I'll check it out straight away.
Find businesses aligned with your values on the Worldwide Awake Business Directory. Start making a difference with every purchase.